Viola Davis, Gillian Anderson, Josh Brolin, Magic Johnson, Michelle Pfeiffer. A lot of big names to talk about in this week's programs. Also, a whole list of renewals and cancellations. Let's talk TV. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to TV News and Reviews for the week. We've got 6 shows to discuss, including the very highly publicized The First Lady on Showtime, which features a lot of the names I mentioned already. Gillian Anderson, Michelle Pfeiffer, Viola Davis heads that one up. Outer Banks, starring Josh Brolin, which is a sci-fi western. We've got The Anatomy of a Scandal miniseries on Netflix, starring Sienna Miller. Swimming with Sharks, which is a TV version of an old movie with, I want to say Kevin Spacey was in the movie, but I never saw it. But that is on Roku, one of their first original shows. The Garcias on HBO Max, which is an update of an old Nickelodeon show. And then the Magic Johnson documentary miniseries called They Call Me Magic. We're going to talk about all of that. But first, I want to welcome you in, of course, to Dan Reviews It. Thank you for finding my video. We do TV news and reviews every single week. I pick out 5 or 6 of the best new shows, or well, maybe not best, as we may find out today, but at least the most interesting or the most talked about shows out there. And then as well, we tackle the TV news of the week. Now, this week, we're going to focus solely on renewals and cancellations. I have some other things, but I think we'll push that off to next week, because next week is all the upfront presentations from the major networks. And so, sort of in anticipation for that, many of them have released their renewals and cancellations for the new season. Some shows are still on the bubble. We still don't know the fate of a handful of them, but most of them have been announced in this last week here. So we're going to start actually with a few of the streaming things. So we'll get to the broadcast shows in a moment. But on HBO Max, Minx and Julia have both been renewed for second seasons. This is fantastic news for me. Minx was an A. Julia, I think, was an A-. I just did that one a couple of weeks ago. So very happy news here. Great shows to definitely check out. Starz has renewed Shining Vale for a second season, which I had mixed feelings about, but I sort of liked some of it. So I'm interested to see where that goes in the second season, and I suppose I will finish watching that first season. It intrigued me enough. And I think it's only maybe 6 episodes, so that's an easy binge. Amazon Prime has renewed Upload for season 3. I have not gotten to season 2 yet on that one, but I enjoyed this show. It's another sci-fi. They're able to tackle, I feel like, sci-fi more easily now with these long form shows, 8 episodes, 10 episodes, to really sort of get us in that world. And I liked Upload, so that is going for season 3. All right, now let's get to the renewals on the major networks. So CBS has upped The Equalizer for seasons 3 and 4. So 2 more seasons there. And then all 3 FBI programs have been picked up for 2 more seasons as well. And I guess we'll sort of do, by network, we'll do renewals and cancellations. So in addition to The Equalizer and the FBI shows getting picked up, CBS has tossed many of its comedies. United States of Al is done after 2 seasons, as well as Be Positive. 2 Chuck Lorre shows, by the way. Chuck Lorre was, at one point the god of CBS. He still has Young Sheldon on, of course, and Bob Hart's Abishola, but two of the 4 are gone. And then How We Roll, which I just reviewed, sort of not favorably a couple of weeks ago, that is gone as well already. Also, Good Sam, done after 1 season. I wasn't a huge fan of that, but I know it wasn't getting great critical reviews either. But this one was a surprise. Magnum P.I., done after 4 seasons. And that one is weird because it routinely pulls in over 7 million viewers, and it leads the Friday night time slot. But, look, they film it in Hawaii, so it's probably more expensive to shoot and all of that stuff. And once we cross sort of into 4th, 5th, 6th season territory, the stars' salaries tend to go up. So probably that was a factor as well. But I was surprised. I mean, that's, I thought their Friday night lineup was pretty solid between that and Blue Bloods. I thought they had something good going on Fridays. But all right, over to ABC. We've got a lot here to talk about. So Big Sky, Million Little Things, and the remainder of the Wednesday comedy block, Wonder Years, The Connors, and Home Economics, have all been renewed. And so now they have, those are part of the Wednesday night lineup. The Goldbergs was renewed a few weeks ago, so we knew that one already. And so also their unscripted stuff, they've renewed almost all of it. So America's Funniest Home Videos for season 33, Celebrity Wheel of Fortune season 3, The Bachelor for cycle 27, American Idol, which is the 6th on ABC they're going into, the 21st overall, and then Shark Tank for season 14. Those are all returning. No word yet on some of my favorite unscripted shows on ABC, which is most of their game shows. Yes, Celebrity Wheel of Fortune is one, but also, no word yet on The Chase, although The Chase just started its 3rd season, so I guess that kind of makes sense. But The Hustler, love that show. Where's that? Match Game, I assume, is probably done, because, of course, Alec Baldwin hosted that, so, let's sort of shy away from him for now, doing quips and comedy. So I think Match Game is probably done for now, but, press your luck. Card Sharks, I haven't heard the fate of that. I assume those are both coming back in the summer, because they usually do like the summer fun and games kind of thing. But anyway, in terms of their fall shows, that's what's been renewed. And in terms of cancellations, really just 2, Queens and Promised Land, are both done after 1 season. I kind of liked Queens. Promised Land, I could give or take. And no surprise that was canceled, because that was shuffled off to Hulu for the last half of the season anyway. So only 3 scripted shows on the whole network are ending, which is the lowest total ever, because Blackish, of course, was designed to end this season, and then the 2 I just mentioned, Queens and Promised Land. So everything else scripted is sticking around on ABC, so that should make for an interesting fall. I don't know what they have really in the pipeline for new shows, but all right, over on NBC, we've got Young Rock for season 3, Grand Crew, and American Auto. Very excited about these renewals, because I wasn't sure what kind of ratings they were getting, but I really like both of those shows, so I'm excited to see them back for season 2. And then Law and Order, of course, and Law and Order Organized Crime. These are no-brainers, and SVU is in the middle of a 3-season pickup anyway, so that was automatically renewed. And that means between the Law and Order shows, the Chicago shows, and the FBI shows on CBS, all 9 of Dick Wolf's shows are remaining on the air for next season. So very prolific dude. However, there are a few cancellations on NBC, and that is shows that I kind of like. Mr. Mayor and Keenan. Keenan I was, a little hot or cold on, but Mr. Mayor I enjoyed. Those are done after 2 seasons. And then the End Game, which, did not do well critically, and I guess ratings-wise it wasn't so hot either, but I liked it. Marina Baccarin from the Deadpool movies was the star of that, and I may have to finish the season. I really enjoyed the couple episodes I saw. And then the big thing here is the CW. So the whole deal with them is they've been kind of skating by some of these shows with the worst ratings on television, because they sell well internationally. And they also sell well to Netflix. So that sort of made a lot of these shows that would normally be canceled long ago kind of profitable at the end of the day. However, the CW is kind of up for sale now. This company Nexstar is looking to buy it, and sort of trying to trim the fat. And at the same time, they've been shuffling sort of owners anyway, because it was a joint venture between the Warner Brothers and Paramount with CBS. And Warner Brothers has just gone through all this change stuff we talked about this last week with TBS and TNT. But, they sort of are under new ownership, under new management, because they sort of bought the whole Discovery brand, and that's kind of why CNN Plus went off the air after 3 weeks. So anyway, more than half of the CW shows are gone. So they are keeping 8 shows. They have canceled 10. And there's a couple that I think we're still waiting the fate of. But so I announced 7 of the 8 renewals like 2 months ago. They really were early on most of these. All American, The Flash, Nancy Drew, Kung Fu, Riverdale, Superman and Lois, and Walker have all been renewed months ago. But then adding to that is the All American offshoot called Homecoming. So that's going to be coming back for season 2. But almost every other show has been canceled. Stargirl is still on the bubble. Season 3 has not even premiered for that yet, so I guess that's going to be a summer show, and then they will decide the fate of Season 4. But they've lost, I mean, Dynasty was on for 5 or 6 years, and always at literally like the lowest of the low, like bottom 1 or 2 for every single week for ratings. But I guess because of these international sales and Netflix sales, it was profitable. But the loss of the show Legacies means the CW is without any Vampire Diaries content since 2009. So, really cleaning house over there at the CW. All right, so next week I'll have some of the other stories, but I wanted to really talk about all of that renewal and cancellation stuff because there was so much of it to get to. So let's get into the review, shall we? First up is going to be The First Lady, which is on Showtime. This is billed as an anthology series, which means that if it does get a second season, it will focus on different First Ladies. But here we focus on 3 specific First Ladies: Eleanor Roosevelt, Betty Ford, and Michelle Obama. Michelle Obama is Viola Davis, and Michelle Pfeiffer plays Betty Ford, and the great Gillian Anderson plays Eleanor Roosevelt. And we have different actresses playing the younger versions of these people as well. And then some, pretty famous guys playing the husbands as well. Kiefer Sutherland is FDR, Aaron Eckhart is Gerald Ford, and I'm not familiar with the gentleman playing Barack Obama, O.T. Fashbini, and then Dakota Fanning is here as well as one of the Ford daughters. So, we have a huge cast here of real big movie stars. And that was sort of the push for this show. Oh, you got to check it out. And then, of course, Viola Davis started getting some feedback online, let's say negative feedback, for pursing her lips too much, doing that kind of thing for Michelle Obama. Look, truth be told, and she released a statement about it too, saying like, look, not every performance is award worthy, but I felt like, I did my best to really embody Michelle Obama. And truth be told, Michelle Obama does have more pursed lips than Viola Davis. I think it's a fine choice. However, the rest of the show, not so fine. It's honestly kind of a mess. I really wanted to like this because I like all of these women that are portraying the people. And I was looking to, maybe learn a little bit about the history of these ladies. And I suppose I did over the first 2 episodes. I suppose I did learn a little bit. But the idea of these 3 specifically is that, they all suffered similar instances when going into the White House. They all suffered sort of, different hardships, but kind of also there's some similarities there that they can all sort of, now they can feel, or we can see, I guess, that they were going through some similar things. So I guess that's why these 3 specifically were chosen. But the problem is in the handling of the A, material, and B, the tone and the presentation. The flashbacks are completely unnecessary and jarring. And really, I get they're trying to lay the groundwork for, this is how these ladies, maybe grew up, or, teenagers or young adults, and how, they got into politics and how they met their husbands and all of these different things. Okay, fine. We got it. But the acting here is fine. I can't really say much about the acting, to be honest, but the characterization, they all sort of end up being almost caricatures, and I don't really think that again speaks into the Viola Davis physical presentation, because I do think she looks the part. Gillian Anderson, I guess I don't know that much about the 2 other ladies, other than I guess what we learned in history class, but like I know the Betty Ford Clinic for alcoholism, but she seems to have done a good job as well. But they end up sort of being these caricatures at the end of the day. And then just the tone of like going to the flashbacks, and then I was thinking, I guess, when I heard about this show, and especially since I heard it was anthology, I thought, I guess, they were going to tackle sort of one woman in each episode. And since they're trying to do the common threads together, I guess that wouldn't have worked. But the way they're doing it, it's like, it's whiplash, not just from, 2008 or whatever to the 70s to the, the early part of the century, but then we're also flashing back to like, okay, well, 19, 1980 or 1978, when Michelle was younger, or the 50s or the 1900s. Like, we're going back to all these different eras, so it's not just the current timeline we're focusing on, and it gives you whiplash. It's like every 2 or 3 minutes we're in a different time, and trying to focus. Okay, now this must be with this person, and okay, let's see what's going on there. But then as soon as you're like invested in that story, they're like, okay, shift it to 2006 now with Michelle Obama, whatever. So it's totally all over the place. The acting is fine. I've certainly seen some of these people do better, but. And I agree with Viola Davis. Look, not every performance is going to be award worthy. We got it, and I can understand that. But it's the script here that is the real problem. The script and the presentation both. So I leave the First Lady with a C-. Outer Range is up next. This is an interesting one. It is a Western science fiction series. And like I mentioned, it stars Josh Brolin, Imogen Poots, and Lily Taylor are in here as well. So other names you might know. So this takes place in Wyoming. And this guy, Royal Abbott, what a name. That's played by Josh Brolin. And he discovers this mysterious black void out in the pasture. Following the arrival of this Imogen Poots character, Autumn, who is this woman that seemed to appear from nowhere and just starts camping out on their land. But there is some sort of connection that we haven't quite figured out with her yet. So this is an interesting one because I have come to the realization, I sort of already knew this, but I don't dig Westerns. Some of them are okay. Like, I really like, speaking of Josh Brolin, I really like the True Grit movie. Or was that Josh Brolin? No, it wasn't either, was it? It was, no, I think Josh Brolin was in it. Well, anyway, either way, I liked that True Grit movie. And, I've seen some other things that I liked, but, like Yellowstone, I never really got into. The sequel was not too bad, 1883. I kind of enjoyed it, but, there's never been a Western that made me feel like, okay, I get why everyone loves Westerns and why they were so big for decades on television and in the movies, from the 40s to really the early 70s. All right, there's never been anything that made me say, yes, I understand this. I like my Westerns with a little bit of a twist, like Tremors, for example. There's a horror Western. Okay, give me something else. Or Back to the Future 3, time travel, comedy, Western. Okay, fine. So when I heard the premise of this, I thought this could be very interesting with the sci-fi aspect to it. But there's problems here. It is so incredibly slow. I watched 2 episodes and it felt like 5 episodes. I mean, it felt so stretched out and so long. They need to get me to the hook a little bit quicker. He didn't even, I think, discover the black hole until like the end of the first episode. So the rest of it is all like this family drama, and this person's fighting with this person, and all of this stuff. Your typical Western stuff. And so it's way too slow. Now, if you dig Westerns and you dig sci-fi, maybe you'll be able to sort of, surf that sort of slow timing. But for me, it definitely just was dragging on as sort of only a sci-fi fan, not so much of a Western fan. I'm like, get to the sci-fi already. The stuff about the family, I just didn't care about. It's that part is all so routine for these Westerns from, many of the ones that I've seen doing this TV news and review show and some of the movies I've seen. It's all sort of the same kind of stuff. And then finally we get to the hook. So then I'm like, okay, now I got to watch this second episode. Let's find out more. Second episode, again, very minimal on the sci-fi stuff. It's definitely there more in episode 2, but I just felt like, come on, like, I don't care about the family. I don't, I want to know what's going on with that black hole. Where are we at? I think of shows like La Brea, for example. Obviously Lost is kind of the template, but more recent shows like La Brea or From, where it's like they hook you right away with sort of the sci-fi stuff and you are in, and you're like, okay, now I want to know what's going on. with a Western, I never really care what's going on. People are fighting over this and that. I don't care, and I like Josh Brolin. Look, I don't know if the man's ever given us a bad performance, but so he's fine here again. Like First Lady, he's not the problem. It's not an acting issue. It's more of a very, very slow pace. I'll give it a couple of points for the mystery that is at hand, because I will admit, I probably won't watch the rest of the season, but I might read up on it. I might see, where they take the story, because it could prove interesting. But I just don't know that I want to sit there for, I think it's 8 episodes or something, meandering about until we really get to the meat and potatoes. So I leave Outer Range with a C. All right, Anatomy of a Scandal is next. This is a David E. Kelley production. He's doing a lot this time around with between broadcast, because he has Big Sky on ABC, he has something coming up on ABC, and then streaming as well. So he's not one of these producers who is like, okay, I am strictly Netflix, or I've signed with Hulu, or whatever it is. He, produces the content and I guess sells it off or whatever, but I've always been a David E. Kelley fan from back in the Picket Fences days, and of course Ally McBeal. So this is a true story based on, or no, is it? You know what? Actually, I don't know if it is true. I guess it's not. It's based on a novel, but I don't think it's a fact-based novel. So I stand corrected. This is not a fact-based story. It's not a true crime. It is just a novel. But the novel is also called Anatomy of a Scandal. It's by Sarah Vaughan. And the premise is essentially this woman played by Sienna Miller, Sophie, is the wife of a British Tory named James, who is played by Rupert Friend, who we've seen before in some things. But she learns that her husband has been having this affair. So, okay, this news, goes public. So she's not happy with this. But then we have an accusation of rape, making everything sort of blow up even more. And this is an all right one, better probably than the first two that we watched this week. This actually might be my favorite of the whole week, to be honest. It's funny, I was, not to sort of spoil my grades for some of the later things we're going to be talking about, but I was just looking at my grades from TV news and reviews of the last 2 or 3 weeks, and it's almost all been positives. Like, I think the lowest grade was like a C or a C+. So I'm like, okay, there's got to be some bad shows out there too. This is the week. There aren't too many positives on this week's program, but this one I do like. I think it's interesting, and again, a little bit maybe slowly paced. Could this have been done as a 2-hour movie instead? Yeah, maybe. But you know what? It's only 6 episodes instead of 8 or 10. And, I think with the storyline and stuff, that's just about right. I don't think this one requires additional episodes, but I think they can sort of concisely do the story in 6. And the acting from Sienna Miller is pretty good. I know that name, and I'm not like super familiar with her work, but I know I've seen her in many things over the years. I'm not going to look now, but I know, I've seen her in things, and she's really maybe hamming it up a little bit, but her responses seem natural and normal for this kind of thing. And then Rupert Friend, he's sort of stuck a little bit, because yes, he agrees that there was sex with this woman, but was it consensual? Is a question, and he has to go before the whatever the court is called, in England, where they wear the powdered wigs and stuff still. But it's interesting. I like a trial-based show, and David E. Kelley, no stranger to that, between Ally McBeal and The Practice, and he's probably done a couple others along the way too. So if it's David E. Kelley plus law, I'm like always in. This does not rank up there with his best for me, but I like it so far. And I will finish the season for it. So I think I'll leave Anatomy of a Scandal with a B. I think it's kind of like in that sweet spot where it could definitely be improved upon. But I like where it's going, so I'll give it that B. All right, Swimming with Sharks is next. I did not watch this movie, but this is based on the 1994 film of the same name, and this is one of Hulu, I should say, Roku, and their first originals. They're really sort of diving into the original content. They bought the whole Quibi library last year. They released the Zoe Extraordinary Christmas special. And so now they really, I don't know if this is their first show. No, because I did a cartoon for them, Borderlands, something. Look, I review like almost 300 shows every year. So some of the titles get lost in my mind, but it was a cartoon that I kind of liked, actually. Sort of that like Cheers meets the Star Wars Cantina kind of thing. Um, but this is, I guess, maybe their first drama. But this follows a young female assistant, much like I guess the premise of the movie. The studio, the Hollywood studio thing, and Kiernan Shipka plays the female assistant, and she, is kind of thrown into this world of the Hollywood studio system, and how does she navigate it, and this and that, and the other. This, for me, another one that just was okay. I think the main problem I have with this is that I couldn't tell how much of it was supposed to be a comedy, how much of it was supposed to be satirical in nature, how much of it was supposed to be, a serious drama. It has tonal issues for sure. And in terms of the satire, I don't think it's as biting as it could be. I don't know how the movie went. Again, I didn't see it. But to me, when I think of, okay, let's send up the Hollywood studio system, especially right now, 2022, I don't believe this show takes place in the 90s when the original movie took place. Maybe it does, and I just missed some cues on that, but I feel like it kind of belongs in the present. I can't remember if I saw any cell phones or anything, but yeah, the problem is it's lacking that bite. It's lacking that really satirical edge to it that I think would kind of push it over the top. I will admit the storyline is interesting, though, and I like these characters, and it reminds me a little bit of, I've seen a lot of shows with this sort of premise. Freeform had the Bold type on, where instead of the Hollywood system, it was a magazine, which is, of course, also kind of a riff on Devil Wears Prada a little bit, and some of the other things. So, look, we've done this premise before, and of course, the movie that it's based on dates back 30 years almost. But I like the character development here. Of all the shows this week, this has maybe the most sort of characterization of people that I've seen thus far. So for that, I do have to give it something. And I like Kiernan Shipka. I've seen her in a couple of things over the years as well. She's most known, I guess, for Mad Men, which I have not watched. I know, I got to get on that list. But Donald Sutherland is here as well in an interesting role to sort of aid some of this. But he's like on his deathbed in a hospital. So I don't know if he's gonna make it, through all 6 of these episodes, to be honest. But I kind of like this. It's not quite as good as Anatomy of a Scandal. I wish it had more of that bite, but I think it's okay for what it is. I'm gonna leave Swimming with Sharks with a C+. All right, over on HBO Max, we have this show called The Garcias. This is a direct sequel to a Nickelodeon show from, I guess, maybe about 20 years ago, called The Brothers Garcia. And it's a lot of the same cast members are here. Now, the one thing I couldn't figure out, and I guess I could have watched an episode or at least a little bit of one, but this version, this Garcias, is a single camera comedy. And I'm not sure if the original was or not. My guess would be that it wasn't, because I feel like Nickelodeon didn't do a lot of those back then. It was Nickelodeon and Disney Channel both did sort of those laugh track shows. But there's always exceptions too, so I don't know. But anyway, this includes a lot of the same people from that, and it's really about people growing up now, and now we're all like sort of in high school, and not all of them, because the family is huge. I'm assuming they've added more cast members that are like a little bit younger that wouldn't have been alive when the original show was on. But look, for me, this is a complete dud. I'm actually curious to watch the original, at least one episode, just to see how it compares, because it was on for, I think, 4 years. I mean, it was a fairly popular show on Nickelodeon back in the day, but it was before my nephews were born, and I was already in my late 20s. So Nickelodeon wasn't really one of my go-to stations. So I didn't really even know much about this show, but I knew it was on for a long time. But this one, it's just the most tired kind of things for plot lines. The first episode is all about the girls getting in trouble, and she wants to be on her own, and the dad's being too overbearing and overprotective, and he doesn't know what he's doing, but he loves her. And it's like, we've seen that premise in every sitcom, going back to the 1950s. So nothing was original about that. But even worse, it's dreadfully unfunny. The kids can't really act, and I don't know if these are. I know the adults are the same from the old show, but I don't know how many of the kids were even alive when the original show was on. So I don't know if the kids are all new here or what, or if maybe they've just been out of the business since the original went off the air, like 13 years ago or whatever. Maybe they just have gotten out of the habit, but they cannot act. It's horrible to watch. And just the script is so weak. It's just not funny. So, look, I'm not going to fail it for the simple fact that I can't speak to how well it emulates that original show. Maybe fans of the original show will love it. I don't know. I didn't watch, but this is not good. So I'm going to leave it with my second worst grade, which is a D for the Garcias. You can check out all the episodes on HBO Max if you'd like. And I imagine since they have a lot of the old Paramount library on or Nickelodeon library on Paramount Plus, you may be able to watch these old episodes there. You might be able to watch them on HBO Max too, the way they sort of go back and forth. But I know a lot of the old Nick stuff is up on Paramount right now. All right, let's go to They Call Me Magic. This is on Apple TV Plus. This was a pretty highly publicized 4-part miniseries documentary about looking at Magic Johnson's life, mostly in basketball and with his AIDS crisis and HIV in the 90s. One of the highest profile people when I was a kid to ever have HIV, and of course he's still with us nearly 30 years later. So what's going on with that, how we've come so far and whatever. All right, so this has the same problem, but even worse, as The Last Dance with Michael Jordan, which was that big sports documentary when COVID hit. Everyone was talking about it, and I watched it, and it was fine. I think I gave it a B or something. But Michael Jordan was a producer, so obviously it had glossed over some of the things. Well, Magic Johnson is not only the producer, but he's got his hands in every aspect of this. He's very heavily featured in interviews, which they did that with Jordan as well. But I think he kind of was the one that brought this to the table at Apple. He was like, let's do a doc. So he's all over this. And in the 2 episodes I watched of the 4, it's all about the basketball stuff. And here was me as a kid, and here's what I went through, and now I'm in basketball, and here's all the basketball stuff. Look, I don't care. I'm not a sports guy. The Last Dance, I will say, was a good enough documentary that it made me care about basketball. And look, that was more my era. I mean, I was, in the whole, Bulls thing in the 90s. How could you not know about it? I was in high school and college when that was going on, and it was like, okay, obviously we know about this. But, look, Magic got his start before that, and he was still playing at that point, I guess, a little bit, but because he was still playing when he got HIV. But it takes place a little bit before that. And what's funny is, his big team was the Lakers, and we have that HBO show right now, the Winning Time, which is, a scripted, kind of fiction-based kind of fact, taken from true events kind of thing, on, I think that's HBO Max. And, I didn't love that either, but I got some chuckles out of it. And seeing some of the same people here, in interviews and stuff actually makes me appreciate Winning Time a little bit more, because I didn't know a lot of those characters. And the ones that are here are like, okay, now I get why they are doing that on Winning Time. But this to me is a completely let's gloss over everything rough. Look, Magic Johnson was known for his, off-court behavior with different ladies, and, having a lot of, embarrassing his wife in those instances, and fighting and, stuff. And look, obviously his legacy is going to be the basketball, the HIV research, all the money he's put in for his philanthropic efforts. I get that. But, let's give us a complete look at this person. Let's give us a really, warts and all type of documentary. And I think that would be a little more enjoyable, because it's a little more balanced. This is just like, we all love you, Magic. You're the greatest. Magic is number one. All right, well, you could tell me that in a half hour piece on 2020 or something, you know? So for me, this one missed the mark definitely more than The Last Dance did. And I'm going to leave They Call Me Magic with a C minus. I guess it's informative, but is it any more informative than Winning Time in the terms of the Lakers? You know, the first episode, a lot of it is about what the Lakers were doing in the 1980s before Magic got there and all that. It's like, I kind of learned that from Winning Time, you know? So, yeah, this one was another miss for me. So, yeah, only really, one big positive with Anatomy of a Scandal with the B, and then everything else kind of average to lower this week. So next week, hopefully we'll get a better crop. But like I said, I was kind of looking the other week at all my grades, and lately they've been pretty high up. So I think we were due for some duds after all that. So, all right, thank you for watching, and we'll see everybody next week on TV News and Reviews. Bye.